How to make a lowball offer. Guys, it's Rick again. In this video, I'm going to show you the elements that make a low offer work, and then I'm going to walk you through actually how to make the low offer. And by the end, you'll know exactly how to get started. But before I do that, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button so other people can find the truth out about wholesaling. Now, I got to give you a disclaimer up front here. I've been wholesaling for 23 years, and I have data that supports all my numbers and my techniques of lowballing. Honestly, I don't care what others think, because the most important thing is to get the best wholesale deal possible. And if you're in control of your marketing, which I always preach, this strategy works phenomenal. Now, number one, you have to build rapport. If you're going to take this strategy and send out e-contracts to everybody without ever talking to them, you're going to have a 99.99999% failure ratio. Using lowball strategies without working with sellers to connect with them by building rapport, it doesn't work. And most important, this only works on motivated sellers of people who need to sell their house. If you're going to buy leads off the internet, which they're mostly focused on price, or you're going to go on MLS and chase down realtors, do not use this technique. This only works in the art of wholesaling. If you want to learn how to get low ball offers, let's jump into it. So now that we established we need to work with motivated sellers that need to sell their house versus people that want, make sure that you only use the need strategy. Now there's 3 commonalities on how to build rapport with sellers, and it has never changed since back in 2003 when I started. And if you get these fundamentals, you're well on your way to using the lowball method. Number one, you got to find commonality. It's your job, not the seller's job, to connect with you. You need to find things within their house or things on the phone with them. You can use social media profiles if they're on there, if they got pictures in their house, if they have a favorite sports team. Everybody likes to talk about things they have in common. It's just human nature. So take full advantage of it. You're going to have to ask some open-ended questions, especially if you're doing this over the phone. It is more difficult to do it on the phone than it is in person, because visual clues are so much easier, and understand nonverbal communication is like 65% of the game. So you have to really pay attention if you're doing this on the phone. Find commonality, find common interest. It makes the conversation go so much smoother and forms a natural connection. Number 2, you're going to have to listen more than you speak. Some of you have a tough time doing this. The more your seller talks is the more data you can gather. If you do all the talking, you did not solve the seller's problem because you don't have enough information. Remember the 80-20 rule. You do 20% of direct communication to connect with them and gather information. Let the seller talk 80%. And I'm going to warn you, some sellers are going to be all over the board in person or on the phone. That's fine. There's no rules how long you talk to someone, just the 80-20 rule. And number 3, you got to be authentic. Don't try to be this fake salesperson, this high energy person. It does not translate in wholesaling. It never has. And in my opinion, it never will. So we have to solve sellers' problems. The only way you can do that is by connecting to them and gathering as much information by keeping your mouth shut more than you speak, so you can get as many clues and as much information as possible. Remember, your job is to go behind the symptom. Real estate is just a symptom. My house is vacant. Find the story of why the house is vacant. My house is in foreclosure. Find the story of why they stopped making their mortgage payments. The story is the reaction, the information you want to get from the sellers that will allow you to assess it and also make a connection with them. Don't forget that. So on number 3, you have to just be authentic. Be yourself. Don't be the superstar salesperson, because in wholesaling, believe this or not, the more sales you are, the worse your close ratio is going to be. You actually have to connect with the seller, listen to them very carefully, and take that information and assess and attempt to solve their problem. The more problems you hear, the easier it is to solve the equation. Focus on the human side. The real estate is just a mathematical part of the equation. Most wholesalers focus on the math and the real estate, when in reality, to get the best deals humanly possible, you have to connect with the human side. Now, there's 2 key questions a seller assesses on who they're going to have buy their house. And it's always been this way, and it has never changed. And honestly, it's pretty much a main staple for almost all industries. Now, number one, if a seller's only obligation to figure out if they're going to do business with you is solely based on their price, it's not a wholesale deal. See, because the only way you can win that battle is by paying the most. And if you do that in wholesaling, you will not last. You definitely won't make any money. And those are people that want to sell their house. You need to find people that need to sell your house. If it's purely a price thing, it's not a wholesale deal. Go back, find motivated sellers, use your government list, find people that have issues and seek them out and see if they have interest in selling their house. Trying to shove this theory down someone's mouth that only wants to sell a house is literally a waste of your time. Now, someone who needs to sell your house, this works very well. So the two questions are, number one, do I connect with this buyer? That's where the rapport comes in. It is a heavy part of the equation. People don't like to do business with people they don't know. Question number two, do I trust this buyer? You have to earn trust. It's rarely given to you, and you have to demonstrate it by telling the truth, by being a great listener and asking high quality questions. It's not about how great your closing line is or how slick of a salesperson you are. I've always equated wholesaling as a guide. You gather information and you help the seller solve their problem. And if you can do that, you can create a win-win situation. So we got to answer those two questions in your presentation or whatever you want to call it. If you cannot find the connection and you cannot build trust, it doesn't matter what you say, they are not going to sell you the house. Work and focus on those two, because if you know what your sellers want, it is your job to solve that, connect with them, and build trust. Trust is demonstrated and earned. It is never given. Don't forget it. Now, we've already walked through the house. We've done the MCTP. We've done the qualification. We've done the preconditioning statement. And now you want to get into the negotiations. This is where most wholesalers freak out. And I'm here to tell you, first of all, go to freewholesaling.com. I walk you through the entire process. At this point, you're at your transition statement. A lot of you guys talk too much, and the best way to cure that is, Mr. Seller, I could talk to you all day about your kids, about your favorite sports team, but I'm here to see if we can buy your house. Mr. Seller, I could talk about your family all day, but I came here to talk about your house and see if we can put something together. Do you mind if we go ahead and move forward with that? Now, what does that do? It separates the rapport, because if you let the rapport go on too long, they're not going to take you seriously. And number two, it forces you to start your final negotiations. It puts you on a shot clock, so to speak. And if you're nervous about it, it's going to force you to get through this. And even if you fumble it, you're going to learn. Most wholesalers stall forever and just start shooting prices like the hip. It's the worst way to do it. Remember, you have to connect with them. You have to, by building a rapport, and you have to earn their trust. So now we've gone from the transition statement, and now we are in the negotiations. So remember, we typically at this point are looking for a reaction from the seller. You always have to answer in a response. A response is a delayed gratification with a conscious answer to help solve the seller's problem. Most sellers are going to react when we give them this offer. I don't even hide it from you. Now, I'm going to do this a little bit differently than most of you are taught. Most of you try to find the number closest to your MAO, your maximum allowable offer, because you try to think like your seller and you want them to say yes. So I'm going to take the opposite approach. I learned this a long time ago, and it has revolutionized how I present offers to sellers. It doesn't mean we're not here to help them. So once I build that rapport at its peak level, we are connecting, I've established trust, I'm going to expect to get a no on my first offer. I know it's revolutionary, but the problem is most wholesalers try to get a yes because they want that short-term dopamine rush. I got a deal. You didn't get a deal. You actually overpaid for it. You got a short-term rush, and now you're going to have long-term pain because when you reach out to 20 or 30 sellers, they're going to tell you you all overpaid it. So listen to me carefully. I'm going to teach you how to go for no. It does not work on everyone. And matter of fact, it works less than when you chase those yeses. But those yeses just give you an easy route and gives you long-term pain. So stop trying to get in your seller's head and let's pull the answer out of them. So if we expect a no, then it's less threatening to you. And honestly, the strategy I'm going to teach you, go for no, takes more stress off you and the seller in the long run and gets a final outcome sooner than later. Because the last thing you want to do in wholesaling is drag on negotiations forever. Now, not everything's done in one shot, but we got to start the process. So I typically start out with saying, seller, what do you need to get to move on from this property? And a lot of times they go, well, what do you mean by that? I'm looking for a subconscious answer from them, a reaction. I'm trying to figure out what number they need to be at. Let's face it, guys, everyone's playing poker here. I've established a rapport, a connection. I've established trust, but I got to get the property for the lowest price possible to make a successful transaction. Do you just want a short-term yes answer and a long-term failure? I'd rather you do the hard stuff up front. That's how you get rewarded in wholesaling. Remember, this is only going to work on motivated sellers that need to sell their house. Now, I want to avoid the traditional trigger words like how much do you want for it? What are you asking? What's your price? What's the offer? None of that stuff. Hey, what do you need to get? Period. It could be as simple as that. And you get people kind of thinking like it's kind of weird. And I want you to understand this. Think visually. In the art of negotiation, it doesn't matter if it's real estate or anything else, a house, a boat, there's always a buyer and a seller. And if you look at negotiations like they're apart, is if the seller's at 200 and they believe that's what they need to get for it, and say they don't give me an answer, I go, what do you need to get for this? She goes, I don't know, you're the expert. And I teach 3 different techniques. Go over to freewholesaling.com. I'll show you how to do it. I don't know, Mr. Seller. If you did know, what do you need to get out of this property? I typically, it's the volley method, back and forth. If you ask them enough times, eventually they're going to spit the answer in. All I am is kind of playful playing with words and putting the ball back in their court. And they'll simply go, I don't know, you're the expert. I go, I know you don't know, but give me a ballpark. What do you need to move on from this property? At this point, they either answer you or they get frustrated and you get a reaction. I want a reaction. That's my favorite part of wholesaling. Once I get a reaction, I get a raw emotion. I got something to work with to really push the negotiations. Now, I want to get this negotiation done in the shortest amount of time. And I want to get to the seller's bottom line number and find out where I can make an offer. So I gave you the visual graphic here. If I go over to my MAO, which is usually right next to where you think the seller's price is, the seller typically goes from a psychological point of view, go, wow, that was more than I thought he would initially offer. I'm going to move my price this way. And they're trying to test you and see if you'll chase them. If you chase them, you're done. You're smoked. Like, let me ask you, if you offer close to your MAO, where are you going to go with it? There's nowhere to go. And that's the problem. So when we do the go for no, think about this. He's thinking 200. I offer him 110, maybe 115. And they'll typically like this, Rick, you're crazy. That's a crazy number. I go, well, I asked you twice and I got to start somewhere, but looking at the condition of the house, am I in the ballpark? And I just put it back to him like that. And then typically what I'm looking for is his subconscious response. I'm expecting a no. If he says yes, hallelujah. But rarely does that happen. It has happened, by the way. You would be shocked. He'll say, Rick, I can't do that number. I spoke over my wife. We can't take anything less than 146.5. Maybe my MAO is 175. I just made you almost 25, 30 grand by using the go for no strategy. Because what happens is I want to see if that seller is going to make movement towards me and chase me somewhat. Because the problem is you going this way chasing the seller, it's a disaster every time. And listen, you're going to get a lot of rejection on this, but I'm only focusing on people who need to sell their house. And remember, you have to buy it for the lowest price. So let's go in doing that. Remember, you're never going to force someone to sell you a house. You actually have to solve the problem and you have to win over the connection piece and the trust. Now, when I make that offer, I'm going to get a reaction. I don't want to get kicked out of the house. And now I have to rebuild it back up. So worst case scenario, I go from here, the seller's here, I make the offer over here, and the seller goes, the least I can do is 146. Now I've cut my negotiations from 112 to 146. Now we just have to close the deal. Worst case scenario, if you decide to split the difference, that's a home run deal. See, there's an entire book on splitting the difference. That's only if you go towards your MAO. It doesn't work. Guys, the number one plague in wholesaling is people overpaying for their wholesale deals. How do you cure it? You do it with lowballs. You use the go for no technique. If you don't believe me, give it a shot. The problem is you guys are looking for instant gratification, and wholesaling is real work. You're going to have to work with people. Is this going to work with people that are solely focused on price? Absolutely not. And the reason why you have to take control of your marketing so you find the most motivated people so you can get people that need to sell their property, solve their problem. And this is going to take time and repetition. But I learned this the hard way by asking sellers after I closed on a property and assigned it if they would have taken a lower price. And more than half of them said yes, which reminds me, I'm only dealing with a small select market, but when I get them, I need to get the lowest price possible because I have to sell my contract to a cash buyer. And the only way to induce them is a great wholesale deal. Do this over and over. You can make a ton of money in wholesaling. I've been doing it for 23 years, guys. Do you want to make 2 or 3 grand a deal or 15 to 50 grand a deal? By using the low ball method, my go for no, it works phenomenal. 23 years, guys. Think about this. Do you think I made my wealth by making $2,000 to $3,000 a deal? No, I'll let the realtors, I'll let everybody else do that. Guys, there's a million ways to do it, but when you focus on wholesaling, if you master your marketing and find people that need to sell your house, the lowball method, specifically go for no, will change your psychology and give you a clear vision of how wholesaling is actually supposed to work. You're not supposed to make a tiny bit of money. You're supposed to make a lot of money. We need to find big problems to solve. Go out there, take control of your marketing. And guys, use the go for no, the lowball method, and watch your results skyrocket. I get it. It's scary. It's intimidating, but it is a technique. And remember, you're looking from a reaction from your seller. You counter it with a response, and that's how a true business person gets it done. I love wholesaling. Is it for everyone? Absolutely not. But guys, I wish somebody shared this with me in my first 3 years of wholesaling because it would have made a tremendous difference back then when I really needed the money. But I had to learn the hard way, and I'm here to tell you it is no different in 2025. So guys, let me know in the comments, are you using the lowball method? And remember, guys, it only works on sellers that need to sell their house. If they're price focused on like online leads or on MLS, this is not the technique you want to use. So let me know in the comments if you're going to go ahead and use it. And as usual, if you got value from this video, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's share the truth about wholesaling. If you want to get more details on how to do this, go over to freewholesaling.com. This is Rick, and I'll see you in the next video.